And we're recording. Welcome, everyone. Super excited for our amazing tasting tonight. This is Arran Part 2. Some of you were here last year for Arran Part 1 with Mariela, who is the global brand ambassador. That time we did it on a Saturday at 2 p.m. This time, with the help of Hunter, we're able to bring it back at our preferred time on a weekday evening. So thank you, Hunter, for making this possible for us. We are so excited, as promised last time. When we did our last tasting, we did our first tasting with Arran. Arran is one of those distilleries that often goes under the radar. It's one of those distilleries that I discovered thanks to the gentleman at Single Cast Nation. I never heard of them before. They sang all the praises. I went out and got a 10-year-old at 46 and was blown away. And I thought it was fantastic for this is like a $50 price point. And I've been a fan ever since. So at our first tasting, we mentioned that the brand was rebranding all their bottles, and we promised that we would have Arran back to try the new labels. And that's what we have today. So 5 of the 6 bottles we're trying today are the new line. So I'm super excited to welcome those. As we discussed last time, they are going to be a little different. So Hunter's here to tell us all about those differences of what makes the new line special and interesting, and just why you should all be fans of Arran. Before we begin, I want to give David Donahue, the president of the LA Whiskey and Spirits Guild, a chance to say a few words. David?
Thank you very much, Vadim. Really appreciate it. And as always, it is appropriate to give our thanks and appreciation to you for all the work that you put into bringing us this virtual tasting series. I think we're about a year mark, if not just past it. So 60 plus of these in. A lot of friendships have been built and established throughout these. And also, it's just a sense of community has been strengthened as we are sequestered. It's still almost released from our sequestration with COVID. So welcome everybody. Also a shout out to those folks that I was able to meet in person at our Burbank pickup. So Tim, it was great to see you. Brandon, great to see you. And as always, just a little quick thing, because I know that Sean, there's some big dramatic stuff in the news. You work for FedEx. So for everybody who is suffering with the FedEx family, to their families, to their loved ones, we are keeping you in our hearts. Cheers. And with that, let's have some fun and drink some good whiskey.
Thank you, David. Yeah, for sure. You know, positive thoughts tonight. We're here to have a good time. Um, yeah, Hunter, do you want to give us a quick introduction on yourself and the brand? And
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Hello again to those of you who have met me before. I work for Hodel & Co. We are the importer for Arran, as well as a bunch of other brands, including the Walsh Whiskey portfolio. Some of you were with me with the Irishman. That's also one of my brands. So I'm the brand manager of the Walsh Whiskey portfolio, which is two great Irish whiskey brands, and then Arran Single Malt, which right now is two distilleries, but only one putting out product. So maybe in the next year or two, as we start to get some of that stock from the new distillery, which I'll talk about, we can revisit here. That's a little bit about me, a little bit about Hodel & Co. We used to be Anchor Distilling. If you know Anchor Brewing, we were the one in the same company. When that got bought by Sapporo back a number of years ago, we didn't keep the Anchor Distilling name, and now we are Hodel & Co. One thing we're really well known for is Luxardo cherries. We are the importer there too. So if you've put that in your favorite Manhattan or favorite cocktail, that's coming through us as well. Just quick shout out to show the company some love, but we're here to talk about Arran, so that's kind of what I'll dive into here. I'm not sure how many of you were on the last Arran tasting, but kind of just as a refresh, Arran is independently owned and operated out on the Isle of Arran. So if you don't know where that is, you basically go to Glasgow, drive about 45 minutes, and take about an hour-long ferry westward into the Firth of Clyde, which is kind of an inlet of the Irish Sea over there in the west coast. So while that can be a pretty tumultuous area as far as weather goes, we are on the northern tip of the island, is where the Lacranza distillery, which everything we're tasting today is from. It's on this really nice sheltered bay on the northern end of it. So you get a little shielding from the peninsula, on the west, and also kind of the bay in there as well. To put that also in further geographic perspective from the rest of our other island whiskey friends, if you know where Isla is, it's about south and east of there, and the closest kind of island, we're right on the other side of the peninsula from the island of Skye as well. So just a little bit, pretty much almost directly eastward, a little bit south of the Isle of Skye, but again in the Firth of Clyde, so it's got more of that protection. Arran's a beautiful island. It's known as Scotland in miniature, just because it kind of represents all the different aspects that you can find across the country of Scotland. And so if you do get a chance there, it actually is the western boundary of the division between Lowland and Highland. So technically, the Lacranza distillery is on the Highland side, whereas the new Lag distillery is on the Lowland side of the island, kind of across that divide. But all of our water, which we're very proud of, comes from Loch Nadavi. It's kind of north central of the island, up on a granite kind of outcropping. Pretty dramatic landscape. You'll see that like 3 peaks that the island's known for. One of them being Goatfell. We're just on the northwest side is where Loch Nadavi is. That kind of runs down through that granite rock. There's a couple different tributaries that hit it before it gets to the distillery, but the distillery is right on the river right before it kind of lets out into Loch Ranza, which is the bay that we sit on, and that's where Lacranza, the town, is, which we are right in town there. Not a big town if you ever go visiting. It's you'd be hard pressed to find 100 people there in the wintertime, but it is a pretty popular place in the summer. If you ever get a chance to visit, we do have a visitor center, both in Lacranza distillery and also in the new Lag distillery in the south, which again, I'll kind of put the differentiating notes before we get into these whiskeys on those two kind of mentalities around those two distilleries. But as Loch Nadavi kind of runs on that granite path down, it also hits a little bit of limestone in the lower elevations, which can add a little bit of minerality to that water as well. But when it comes to the actual water source itself, we are known as being one of the purest water sources in all of Scotland. So that's kind of one thing that is a really uniquely identifier of especially the Lacranza whiskeys. It's what helps gives it its kind of more lighter, more citrusy kind of profile that we're known for. You'll notice with all these scotches, especially that we taste today, there's definitely always that citrus backbone coming in, and that's kind of a signature for us as far as our profile goes. So just kind of a little bit about that. But I've talked a lot about the Lag distillery, even though you guys can't taste anything there. So Lacranza is all unpeated malts. Those are all single malts. Those are all the ones we're tasting today. The Lag distillery is a lot of more like 50 part per million ppm style, more heavily peated scotches. So we'll have kind of our first spirits coming out of there sometime late 2022 here in the U.S. We're hoping we get some of that. Not a lot of production though. And that's kind of the whole story with Arran as a general note. It's a small production. We're only about 25 years old, starting back in 1995. And so our oldest whiskey that we have really put out on a wider scale is this 21-year-old. We do everything in-house, so that's why we're not sourcing anything from anywhere else. That's why you won't see any other older whiskeys from us, older than how old we are, that is. So we do have some special single casks and things like that you might find, which are going to kind of come into the U.S. here and there for its 25th anniversary. I don't even know if I'll be able to get any of that. It's about a single cask that'll be coming to the U.S., but that's probably the oldest stuff we're putting out. But for the wider availability, I guess it's not that widely available, but the 21-year-old. So you'll find too that our scotches are actually, if you are buying them retail for what you're getting, they're very reasonably priced. Arran's very much about kind of whiskey for the people. The amount of scotch that we make, we could definitely probably charge higher prices and still be able to sell everything we have. But that's not what we're about. Even our 18-year-old at 150, 160 bucks is a really, really good price for that kind of style whiskey and what you're getting. So any kind of questions about Arran itself that you guys can think of top of mind, the distillery, the history, we can start diving into some of these whiskeys if we want to. I think we all do. It's Friday night, right? So I'm just going to drop right into the chat again for those of you who weren't here earlier, the order that we're going to be doing it in. So starting with the barrel reserve, and again, this was alluded to earlier, but the whole core lineup has been revamped. You will not have had probably 3 of the 4 of these, kind of the first 4 here, because they are brand new to the U.S., brand new to the distillery. I'll get a little bit into that as we get through them. So start with the barrel reserve. This is our entry level now. It used to be the Bronze Reserve. I think you guys some of those may have tasted that last time. It is all first fill bourbon casks. You definitely get a lot of that influence on there, but again, you get some of that more citrus backbone that we're known for, and that is really a signature. At that 43%, it isn't non-chill filtered. This is again a little bit more of a playful expression for us. We're starting to experiment with it as people get more into cocktail making and doing some things like some highball drinks. This is meant to play nicely with some of those. So it is chill filtered to have more of those aspects available to you, more versatility without it getting cloudy or anything like that.
So you said, Hunter, it is chill filtered, or is it?
Yeah, the Barrel Reserve, it's the only one that's chill filtered. There's still there's no coloring added to any of our whiskeys or anything like that. You'll notice with the 10-year-old versus if you put it next to some other 10-year-olds on the market, it might even look a bit lighter. This is actually what a true 10-year-old whiskey should look like. Of course, if there's some sherry cask influence, it can get a little darker, but we don't add any color into any of these at any stage. So you're just getting the pure expression of the spirit here.
I noticed that when we got our little 1-ounce sample bottles in the elite packaging of El Zipio Laccio, is that you can see a lot of the different colors in those. And so I was going to wonder that there's probably no color added. And I was really excited to kind of taste through these, especially the 18, because 18 looks darker than the 21.
So yeah, and the sourcing on the 18, and if you guys tasted this last time, will be a little bit different. Just the sourcing of sherry casks has kind of changed throughout the years, and just you're getting a lot more of that color from the sherry cask influence in that 18-year-old because it is again 100% sherry cask. I don't know the exact producer of the sherry when we get to some of those. I think it's a variety of them, but they all are from Jerez, and they're all kind of top line marks usually that they're coming from. But again, the Barrel Reserve, what we're talking about now, it is all that first fill bourbon cask. I get a lot of that bourbon influence. I can actually pick up some of that kind of more those caramelized kind of notes and more vanilla that you'll get on a bourbon barrel, kind of especially on the finish here, which I think is really lovely. It's got again a little bit broader shoulders, especially for Scotch coming from Arran. But again, bright citrus, really nice fruit notes, a little bit of orange peel I can pick up on the nose, but just as a distinction too. So, I always get the question, what age is this whiskey? Well, it is a non-age statement. It's really a combination of 7 to 8 year old casks. And that's kind of right about where we land, even though it is not an age statement. Everything is at least 7 years old that's going in here. So again, it's meant to be a little bit more playful, get some of that kind of, again, citrus, that lemon notes, and also a little bit of green apple and that kind of bourbon on the finish.
This is like a tropical version of the 10.
Yeah.
I had a question, Hunter, on the logo. I know you guys changed your marketing. Is there anything like a story behind the logo with the bird?
Absolutely. Sorry. Thank you for reminding me to touch on that. So, for those of you who haven't seen, I don't know if you can see me here, but this is the old pack. This is in the 21-year-old. We won't be getting new pack 21-year-old until Q4 this year, so in time for the holidays. But just so you know, this is the only package 21 we have. It's kind of this aesthetic, which is really carried over pretty much. There's some minor tweaks throughout the years, but from our initial inception back in 1995. So trying to give a little bit more identity to the brand and be more evocative of us being an island whiskey. That is our heritage. That is what we classify ourselves as an island whiskey, an island Scotch. So we've moved towards. So you'll see some of these on the back behind me. These different sleeves. So these tubes right here, but I'll touch on a little bit about the bottle here in a second. And this is what the bottle itself looks like. So we moved to a bespoke bottle. So some really cool details here you'll see on here is there's actually quite a few ridges going on here. That's more evocative of the waves, kind of the shoreline, and again the fact that we do have some of that sea influence on our scotches. And then again on the bottom, it feels really cool. It's got some like kind of nice rippling, and that's also evocative of the water. But there's some really cool beaches. They're not beaches you want to hang out on, but they're these really beautiful kind of round, soft stone beaches, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of that. And then you'll also notice some Braille on the label. So we have started putting Braille. It just reads Arran single malt on all of them. Again, getting back to kind of the whiskey for the people, just trying to make it accessible to all people, and that's kind of a note that you and the managing director wanted to make sure came across in the packaging, was that it's whiskey for everybody, or as much as we can produce. So the packaging we've won a bunch of awards for it. We still have, if you notice in the old bottle, there's the two eagles on there. So that kind of ties in with the story of the distillery being built. So during construction, two eagles actually moved in to the distillery, and we had to stop construction for about, I want to say, 8 months to a year, somewhere around there, just while they were nesting and mating and giving birth to their young and all that stuff. It is a protected species, so they had to totally shut down, and the distillery was delayed. But they still come back every year for their nesting. So they've been known to kind of give some flybys and things like that during their nesting period around the distillery. But they come back every year, and it's become kind of a fun aspect of the distillery is being home to these two, I believe they're golden eagles. So you'll see that on the old packaging. That's kind of embossed on the bottle, and that's really front and center. It still is a big piece of the heritage. And so you will still see it kind of captured in the island down here. You'll see the two eagles and then the pot still. And then this is kind of motif of the island around it. So again, just kind of bring it more into the modern century of what people expect from us. Went to a little bit broader, more kind of premium finish on the cork and cap. It is actual real wood and printed with our logo there on the top too. So just a little bit about some of the packaging there, but it's a big shift for us. We're really excited about it, and kind of speaks to our independent-minded spirit there too.
No, I like that. I like the blind. I guess the feeling. You guys had that little code on the end too. You feel, and my wife noticed that on the bottle as well.
Yeah, you'll see it on both the tube and also the bottle itself.
Bottles, yeah.
So it might switch one day. It might actually be SKU specific, but for now it just reads Arran single malt on that. Alrighty. Any other questions on kind of the barrel reserve here?
David, did you have a question? No.
Alrighty. Well, we'll dive into the 10-year-old then. So it's a nice progression going from the barrel reserve to the 10-year-old. So also finished in bourbon casks, all first fills as well. So you'll get a little bit more just having the age on here, a little bit more, I guess, rounded edges. So I definitely get a little bit more of that kind of bourbon barrel influence, kind of especially in the back of the palate from the barrel reserve. On the 10-year-old, I pick up, again, a little bit more subtlety to it. You still get some of those notes, but it's kind of the harsh edges are kind of shaved off it. And that's not a comment on the quality of the barrel reserve. Some people actually, I think, prefer kind of a little bit of that pop. But this has some bourbon barrel influence, and then it's also first fill and refill sherry barrels. So it's a little bit more, again, heavy bourbon. So I want to say it's about 70-30 on the 10-year-old. So you don't pick up as much of that color on the sherry hogsheads. Number one, because not all of them are first fill, but also because it's mostly those first fill bourbon barrels which have that lighter color going on. But again, if you compare it to some other 10-year-olds out there, you'll notice it is slightly lighter in color. But this is our flagship SKU. This is kind of carryover from maybe something you've tasted in the last tasting. It's probably the only one that's going to be similar. It is slightly different, just kind of a little bit of change in the mix of the bourbon and sherry barrels on the 10-year-old. So versus what you we've had before. Again, that sherry lends itself to a little bit more of those kind of sweetness, sweet dried fruit kind of notes coming through as well. And again, I think it just has that nice, again, really kind of nice subtleties and layers of flavors. I always think Arran's really beautiful about, it's not a palpate in your face. It's not your big, high proof bourbons or anything like that, which are great on the, on their own side. But again, this is a little bit more nuanced, I think, for a Scotch. You're also not a big, a peat bomb, which is also great. And we're going to be making some of those ourselves, but just, again, it's got a lot of nuance to it. I think it's really lovely. And again, a lot of that nuance really comes from the environment in which we do our aging. So having that more sheltered bay keeps the temperatures a little bit more even. So it's a little bit more, I guess, even maturation over those 10 years.
So if we see a 10-year at a store online, how do we know if it's the new or the old?
If it's you'll know by the packaging. So if it looks like this, that's what that's going to be what you're tasting. If it looks more like this, kind of with that Arran scripting, that's going to be the old one. It switched with the packaging.
I meant like, is there? Did you put a new SKU on the bottle?
You mean like a different UPC or?
Yeah.
It's the same UPC as the 10-year-old, but everything else is pretty much different.
We've had issues.
So there could be some issues.
Yeah, we've had issues in the past with.
Ordering when you're trying to order. I'd be hard pressed to probably find old packaged 10-year-old, or at least there's probably not that much of it out there. We spent really the last 6 months of last year before the transition, and we had been out of stock in our warehouse since I want to say August or September. And we didn't get any back until January. So through the holidays and things like that, most of it should have been sold through the channel. So most of what you should be finding out there is all new pack. You might see some 14-year-old if you see that. It's a very lovely whiskey. In order to be able to make our 10-year-old and our 18-year-old both at kind of the scale we want to, that SKU actually did not return as part of the core offering. It may come back at a later date, but again, we'll see. So just kind of depends on how much inventory we have.
Hunter, there was a question in the chat. With the changes, did you change anybody internally? Is anybody blending it differently, or are the same people there?
No, so James McTaggart has been around for a long time, and he's kind of the head of distilling operations. He's still around. He's been around, but David Livingston did come on as kind of the distillery manager in the last, I'm going to say in 2019, maybe 2018. So he's relatively new, but he's got a lot of history. A lot of these folks at Arran, a lot of them are actually born on Islay. But have made their way down. A lot of them come from Brooklodic and some other folks up there that you would know. So they're seasoned veterans. But as far as recent changes, not really. We do have a relatively new distillery manager down at WAG, but he has a lot of experience himself too. So there are two different distillery managers between our two distilleries. But kind of James McTaggart is a guy who is doing all the blending for all of our scotches right now, and he's been around for at least 10 years, I want to say. Great,
thank you.
What kind of warehousing are you guys doing with Arran?
It's racked. So I think I saw that question come through, but yeah, everything's racked. So
yeah, this is quite lovely. I personally still think the old blend was a little more towards my palate, but this is absolutely stunning as always.
Well, I find them all very easy. I mean, these are great. I don't want to call them, I hate to put it in a category of introductory, like somebody who's not into, this particular kind of expression, but you could bring either one of these, and I think that people would enjoy them a lot.
No, absolutely. And again, getting, back to just Scotch for the people. I mean, the $6 Scotch is not for everybody, obviously out there, but again, it's as far as profile palate, it's very approachable. borderline quaffable. I would say, especially on these two expressions. But again, that's the way people are drinking Scotch these days. Going back to the barrel reserve, that's kind of more in line with what the modern consumer is looking for as well. But it's in our own Arran style. So again, being more cocktail friendly and things like that versus the rest of these, really, we advise to drink neat or on the rocks, where the barrel reserve is a little bit more playful. So
The 10-year shines with the mouthfeel. For me, mouthfeel is very important, and it's very noticeable how just soft on the palate it is.
And again, a lot of that goes back to our water source as well. Just a really, really clean water source. I've seen it claimed as the purest in Scotland, but I think a few other people also try to take that kind of mantle. But we are certified as among the purest of Scotland. And again, alongside the River Spey, which is known for being really clean and pure, it's up there as well.
In my opinion, this is like a very savory. I like to have this with the barbecue. I actually have the new one, the bottle of this one.
Very nice. So. Well, appreciate that. Appreciate the business. So, as always. But yeah, no, again, they're meant to be approachable. Also, as we get down the line, so Arran was established and really known for a lot of our sherry casks and sherry production before. Not sherry production, but our Scotch production aged in sherry. And that's kind of our whole new kind of revamped lineup, is getting back to that root as well. So you definitely see more sherry cask influence. And what that pairs really nicely with typically is some dark chocolate, which is after my own heart. So we've done some really cool dark chocolate pairings. But if you're looking for something to go along with the savory dessert at the end of the night, something rich like some, really delicious dark chocolate or chocolate cake, especially our more sherry cask finishes, go really nicely along that. Before, and I guess what people call the before times now, we were doing more of these chocolate and whiskey pairings to go along with the repack launch. Obviously, things changed, but we're hoping to bring those back at some point.
Hunter, I think it would have been very easy for you and Vadim to coordinate, putting some chocolate into our, virtual tasting and sample pack.
Look, if I did that this time, there'd be no room for improvement, right? So I just got to build in for the future. That's all I'm doing.
I think that would be great, because I think we're missing Coleman Thaxton, who is usually a regular here, who would have already been pairing this with chocolate and sharing. So.
He would have been pairing the 21 with chocolate by now.
Yes, he would have. He would have gone way ahead and said, "I like one with this particular, type of dark or medium dark," and yeah. So.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, I'm a chocolate fiend myself, so we would
have things to aspire for, and we would welcome the opportunity to do it again.
All right. Well, we'll see about making it happen. So I'm on to the quarter cast now. If you guys are following along, if you're going at your own pace, by all means, I'll get around to them all eventually. But quarter cask. Slightly different than the old quarter cask, which was called the Bothy, really mainly. We got away from more fanciful name and just kind of called it what it is, which is a quarter cask. It spent 7 years in first fill bourbon casks, and then another 2 in some quarter casks that are new American oak, not ex-bourbon casks, but they are new white American oak. So you get that full kind of American oak experience from start to finish on this. And again, it kind of imparts a lot of that more vanilla flavor. For those of you who think about barrels and how they influence things, as far as barrels go, typically you've got your European oak, French Hungarian. It's all the same species. It's all the same kind of tightness of grain. When you're looking at French oak, they season them in their own way, and they're typically grown sustainably. So they have their own kind of aspects based on that seasoning out there in the environment. And then American oak is much more wider grain. And typically they're coming from about a good oak tree should be about 100 years old to be harvested for a white American oak barrel. It has the best quality wood for that environment. but it is much wider grain, and it is typically much more imparting of those kind of caramel, vanilla, buttery notes that you'll find on those. So just kind of a difference of those barrels. And then something that's really hot right now is then a different species, which is Japanese Mizunara cask. So that Mizunara wood, it is actually a Japanese oak. And as far as grain goes, American is the widest, then French, and then Mizunara is the tightest grain. And so you're going to get a lot more spice and a lot more impact from those flavors. We don't have any Japanese cask finishes here, but again, a lot of people are doing those. You see them around a lot. So just kind of a note on barrel choices. But people typically finish in those Japanese casks just because they are so intense and so tightly grained and so spicy, as opposed to aging for the full scope of the process. So
There's a couple of interesting questions in the chat that I noticed. Wanted to touch on if you can.
Yeah.
Vince had an interesting one. If Ralphie's selection of Arran 10 as his whiskey of 2020 helped at all.
You know, we've always had really good press. We've been very well regarded as far as the distillery. Everything always helps, of course. We also just, if you get Whiskey Advocate in the spring issue, we were just named one of the 10 best undiscovered Scotch distilleries. That's not the exact copy, but it was a cover article. And we got written up really well. This whole lineup was reviewed and very favorably looked upon and was actually even highlighted. So all the press always helps, but I really think we're actually putting out some of the most really just, again, beautiful Scotches out there. Again, as far as nuance, layer of flavors, approachability, it's kind of Scotch for everybody. You know, if you're a peat fan, you can usually find something you appreciate here. And if you're someone who's new to Scotch, as David alluded to before, it's a good, kind of dipping your toe in the water and getting a feel for what we're about. But again, every little bit helps. So
this cask finish is really fantastic.
the quarter cask, is that what you're tasting right now? I know.
Yeah, this is.
The quarter cask is 100. You said 112, right? 112 proof.
Yep. Right. It's got some decimals in there, but that's about where it lands. So yeah. 100.
Can you talk about the price points, or Vadim, do you know the price points for the first 3 expressions?
Yeah, I can run through them if you like.
Okay,
so the barrel reserve, typically it's around $50 is where you'll find that. The 10-year-old about 60, which is still a great price for a 10-year-old. The quarter cask, call it about 75, and then the next one we'll get into, the sherry cask, is about 80. So the first 4 are all under $100. And
then, just because I sometimes have a hard time paying attention, I'm easily distracted. The non-chill filtereds were started at the second expression, or
only the barrel reserve is chill filtered. That's it.
So 46 and up. But there was you mentioned peated for peat fans. Don't you guys have one peated expression, right? The Macklemore.
Okay, yeah. So the Macklemore, that is now defunct, more or less, as far as the SKU. That was before the live distillery was built. We were kind of experimenting with peated expressions. Those were a little bit lighter peated than our stuff that's going to be coming out of lag. But we won't have the Macklemore in the U.S. anymore. But we did play around with it. That was kind of our dip in the toe in the water for peat, and just kind of figuring out how it played with our scotches. And so that was kind of that piece of it, but you won't find those in the U.S. anymore. But we did do some of that.
Well, it looks like K&L has a few bottles, and they're clearancing it out. So if you like peated and you like the distillery profile, maybe something you want to try out.
Otherwise you're gonna have to wait till 2022. So
they have and they have the I guess this would be the old version of the quarter cask, the Bothy.
The Bothy is the old version of the quarter cask, and that has it's just a slight. There's a little bit of cherry casks in there as well.
This is you said 7 years in ex bourbon and 2 years
first fill bourbon cask, and then 2 years quarter cask American oak.
Wow. Is it toasted, charred? What kind of virgin oak are you using?
It's toasted, not charred, on the quarter cask. Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know what the toast level it is. I mean, a lot of people use medium plus or something like that. So I could find that out for you and follow up.
I think if anybody likes a high proof rum, for me, this is like a high proof, like light charred barrel rum. It's real sweet, but really nice and smooth and spice.
Yeah, and going to your rum, like it has a ton of tropical fruit notes. I get even some pineapple sometimes, especially if I toss a little bit of water. Not necessarily in the nose. I get it much more on the palate. But kind of evoking those sort of rum notes. I could definitely see that comparison for sure. I also, being a cast finish too, and for those of you keeping score, Scotch, we typically we're always double distilled versus our friends in Ireland being more triple distilled. So you typically get a lot more of that kind of oils present in the whiskey, which can also lead itself to a little bit of a waxy character, especially on the front of the palate, some of that beeswax kind of note coming through. I'll pick that up sometimes too.
Is it considered a finished whiskey if it was finished in virgin oak? Is that still a finish?
I assume so. I'm actually not sure as far as legality goes, but yeah, I believe so. And we call it quarter cask, and that's quarter cask is typically what is finished in.
Okay. I guess,
So can
right.
Vadim, you said something about the Bothy cask. Anyway, I got confused. Are we drinking the Bothy quarter cask or are we not drinking the Bothy quarter cask?
So we do still call it the Bothy, but it is slightly different than the Bothy you had before, if you've had it before in the old package.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Good. All right. Are we ready to move on to the sherry cask? Or do you want to spend some more time with this? Any other? I'll use this time, I guess, to kind of.
Yeah.
I can talk a little bit about what the Bothy means. It's pretty much like a small cottage or kind of small hovel, what have you, something that kind of looks like it's spraying out of the ground. That's what the name of the Bothy is, and I think it's Gaelic. It's probably got to be or Scots, one of those. But that's kind of what the island is a whole collection of all these small little hovels and cottages. It's not a huge population, but that's kind of where it comes from. Just for a call out there. Well, I got to say, this next whiskey, if I have my bottle here, it's pretty heavily depleted. I'm a big fan of this whiskey as a cast finish. It is 100% all first fill sherry hogsheads. So that's where you kind of get that more caramely color. But for under $100, it's pretty damn hard to beat. Whiskey Advocate actually just gave it 94 points, which was like I think it was tied for second for its highest rated Scotch during its last whiskey roundup, which was all Scotch. So very highly regarded. This has been quite a popular item. Honestly, I'm glad that we're tasting it here. Bear with us. Just global shipping problems. We probably won't have good stock of this in the U.S. until H2 of this year, just because there's been so many delays at port, and also again, it's been popular globally. Regardless of country, it's pretty much been taken off. This is also that kind of 7 to 9 year old whiskey blended together. But again, 100% of that's first fill sherry casks, all through and through. You pick up a ton of that dried fruit. I definitely get it on the nose. Dark chocolate. It's just really, really beautiful.
Real quickly, Hunter, I do apologize for this brief interruption because some of us have a tendency to be buying online as we're talking, and we really like stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the links that Vadim shared was to K&L.
Yep,
and
they should have it.
But I think that they have it as kind of a discounted price. So am I correct in seeing that the Bothy quarter cask single malt is the one that we're tasting right now? Then they happen to have the old picture of the branding of the bottling K&L's?
They're probably still selling through old package of it. I know we sold a bunch of it to them.
So would it be the expression that we're tasting right now, or would it be something different?
For the Bothy, it's very, if they don't have the updated photo, they're pretty diligent about that usually, and we are too. So if it's old label, it's probably old product.
Right, because they're saying previously $80, now $57.99.
Which is great whiskey, but yeah, that's most likely. I mean, I can find out definitively, but that's going to be old pack.
Well, you said it's not branded as the Bothy anymore, or is it still being called that?
So if you look on the bottle, it says it's barrel reserve. But if you actually look at the tube itself, it does say quarter cask the Bothy. So we did keep it around, but we moved it kind of more secondary. So again, wish it was more clear than that. But
same proof as the old Bothy too.
Let me just double check that for you before I tell you.
You might be able to check for the difference, David, looking at proof.
Yeah, I'm looking at the
so it used to be 55.7 and now it's 56.2.
Which means the K&L one is the old one. Still good.
No, it looks like it, but it is the. Let's ask this question then: is the quarter cask that we're drinking available at K&L or Mission or someplace like that?
Mission has it.
Mission does. Okay. Do you have that link available?
I do. Coming to you right now.
I bought it at the Mission. I bought it at the Mission.
K&L though, once they run through that old pack, they will have the new pack available as another option. So I can, let's see. They usually tell you what their inventory is online. So
They also, if you look at all the Arrans, anything that's the new label, they actually say new label next to it, so you can differentiate. So
Yeah, I was just going to say, looking at the sherry one that we're drinking, it says new label and it's clear the new label. So that I think the Bothy was definitely the old one.
yeah, so it looks like they got 11 bottles in San Francisco, a couple cases in their main warehouse, but I'll touch base with them because they could probably bring them to Redwood City and Hollywood, but that should be another option for you there.
The link that Vadim just shared with everybody shows the Bothy, admission Bothy quarter cask at I think 60.
Yeah, $70.
Yeah, $69.99. And is that the one that we're tasting?
It's the one we just did before. I've just moved on to the sherry cask.
No, I'm talking about the quarter cask because I'm trying to buy it.
Yeah, no, that's the one. That'll be the right one.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
But buyer beware, it is Mission, and we know that could be. So as far as we know, it's the right one.
If you give me when we have a little bit of time, I can actually I'll pull up in a report and I'll see if it's shipped to them directly because
these are all core range anyway, so they'll be widely available if they're not here right now, right?
Yes and no. Until H2, the quarter cask and the sherry cask are both pretty. They've been pretty popular. California is the place to get them. There's pretty good stock in California. It's one of our focus markets, but we've been pretty much going in and out of stock. We get a shipment about every 6 weeks or so, and it goes pretty much the next day. So it's with those two items, the barrel reserve and 10-year-old should be more widely available. The quarter cask and sherry cask, bear with us. We're just trying to overcome really the shipping challenges around that are happening globally right now. We can't even get a boat scheduled really out of Scotland, and then receiving it here in California. It's about a 25 to 30 day working day delay at port. So there's been some struggles around that. This whole Suez thing hasn't actually probably been felt the ripples either. So I would expect some shipping problems through 2021, but we should have decent stock coming by the holidays this year on those two SKUs.
Thank you for that, Hunter. I'm not an attorney, but there are several here. So I'm going to dive down and get a little bit more specific. If I order K&L and it's the Bothy quarter cask because I want to, will it be the one that we're drinking, or should we wait for you to confirm what's available at those stores?
At K&L or at Mission? K&L is going to be the old pack.
Mission.
They have the old one. They have the old one. I got it not too long ago.
I'm looking for the new one that we're tasting now, and it's admission. It shows the picture of the new bottle at $70, $69.99. So that's what we're drinking now.
Before I give you a definitive answer, I'll look it up. And when I have a moment, I'll pull up in the handy
no worries.
bad report. So
I will not pull the trigger on the cart yet because we still have more to drink.
That's
and
right.
With that, I will stop talking about that.
No, but if I forget, remind me, because I can definitely look it up for you. No problem. So are people onto the sherry cask now?
Yeah. It's like a
All right,
chocolate
excellent.
cherry.
Again, I definitely get more of those dried fruit notes, as I was saying, just typical of a sherry cask. Figs, cherries, but again, you still get kind of that, pure air and spirit in the backbone. A little bit of that kind of citrus coming through, but definitely more on the sweet side with those more kind of, again, candied fruit, chocolate, raisins, things like that. But I do pick up kind of a little bit of even like an orange rind or something like that on the nose. But again, this has been one of my favorites to enjoy. Probably too much, but again, really quite a lovely whiskey here.
Like it tastes like those holiday with the liqueur with the cherry inside with the milk chocolate, like all in one, like all liquid. You're just drinking it.
Yeah, and you can definitely get some of that more in the finish too, even. So for sure, I'm right there with you.
Hey Hunter, I got a taste from a friend, and the taste just says Arran sherry, 46%.
That's the sherry cask.
But it's 46% as opposed to what we're drinking now, which is almost 56%.
You have a full bottle of it?
No, I just got a little taster.
So we have a pretty big single barrel program as well. So again, we finished a lot of things in sherry casks. It's possible at some point down the line that one of our single barrels made it your way.
Okay, I was trying to find out where to buy it because I like that as well. But I mean, I'm happy with the higher proof one too. So
Beverage Warehouse sometimes has single cask sherry cask. At least they had in the past. That's what I've got here.
You'll see some more single cask. Sorry,
I didn't see it there on Sunday, Brian.
Yeah, well, this was a while ago, but they get them in from time to time. This is 5 years old, at least.
We haven't really shipped any private or single cask, whatever you want to call it, barrels to the U.S. Since probably late 2019. We've had some kind of limited items and things, but when we took over the brand in June, it just kind of a transition. We'll have more single cask coming down the line, but there hasn't really been anything imported since then. So if you're looking for one of those single cask expressions, they're pretty tough to find out there right now. Come later this year, we'll be rolling out probably 10 to 15 casks every quarter, single casks across the country. So you'll see some kind of unique items out there. It's a big piece of what our business is, but for the time being, just hold tight. Yeah, I also I know someone mentioned that they didn't add water to this. I actually didn't either on this one, but that's his personal preference. I know a lot of cask strength people typically do, but I love the kind of full flavor and full bodiness of this Scotch in particular. So
no, this is really impressive. Excellent execution.
They make good stuff. That's for sure. The distilling team knows what they're doing. They're a great group of folks, and again, looking forward to more stuff like this in the future. So, kind of a nice, easy transition going from those kind of more bourbon and American oak quarter cask in the sherry cask, and now as we get into the 18-year-old, this is not a cask strength whiskey. It is at that 46%. But it's 100% sherry cask for first fills. But again, it's a little bit more mellowed out. It has more time in barrel, obviously, than that kind of 7 to 9 year old sherry cask. So Similar to the barrel reserve to the 10-year-old, it's got some of those kind of harder edges shaved off. It's a little bit softer on the palate, a little bit more, I think, well integrated and a little bit more layered. This is also one of those things where I wish we had more of this. We get in the U.S. about 200 6-packs a year of the 18-year-olds. So you're among a very small crowd of people who will get this in any given year and are able to taste it. Which again, shout out to Vadim for making that happen for you guys as always. But again, it's a really beautiful color, and this is again really looking back to what classic Arran is. Classic being a 25-year-old distillery. This is kind of really true to our roots. And again, for an 18-year-old whiskey that we only get 200 6-packs of, we could probably charge a higher price for it, but at $160 or so, it's a really, really great buy, and kind of right in line with a lot of 18-year-olds, but still, again, it's a very limited item. So if you see it and you like it, grab one when you have the chance. We have.
Is this the same 18 we tried in November, Vadim? Or is this a new 18 also?
This is the new label.
Mm-hmm. This is the new one the one you guys were having is the new one. So
right, but the one we tried last time wasn't because I have a note that something, but it used to be 70%. The 18 used to be 70% sherry cask and 30% bourbon cask, and these are all fully sherry cask now, right?
Correct.
Hunter, how much was the 18-year-old approximately?
About 160.
Hunter, this fell flat for me unless you gotta let it sit. I don't know.
I like this.
Or unless the cast strength before killed it for me for the 18 because it's lighter.
Yeah, again, there is a little bit more nuance to this. I actually think the sherry cask, if I'm going by personal preference, I actually like it a little better than the 18-year-old. But again, to each their own. Again, this is a little bit softer. It's a little bit more rounded. It's a little bit more, I think, again, even as far as the taste profile goes, it's not popping with as much of those kind of big notes. But that's the intention here, is again, to appreciate the subtleties of this. Again, I love the sherry cask. It's one of my favorite whiskeys, period, that I drink. But the 18-year-old, again, a little bit more nuanced, but it's not going to have those big pops up and down. Especially, again, more of that 46%, you're not going to get as much of that heat. Again, as a progression, I think it makes sense. But if you're trying to pick out all the nuances, I probably blew up your palate with the sherry cask. So apologies there. I maybe should have changed things around a little bit.
No, you're fine. I was expecting, I guess with the color of it and darker, I was expecting a little bit more. And it wasn't so much the spice. It was just wanted a little bit more complexity, I would say.
Yeah, but if maybe pour it a little bit out and just sit on it for a little bit, revisit it later, see what you think again. Because again, after the cherry cask, it is again, it's more muted tones for sure as a result.
Yeah.
And I think
no, and I agree. It probably killed it with that cast strength, two of them into
no, and again, I didn't pour any, I didn't drop any water into the sherry cask. I didn't get it down, I proof it down a little bit. So that's on me. But again, you'll pick up a little bit more of the kind of intricacies if you leave it alone for a little bit.
No, yeah, but I'm saying otherwise, I mean, still 18, it's wonderful. I'm just saying it's not taken away from it per se.
No, for sure. No, I appreciate the feedback too on that. But yeah, it just, again, it spends another 10 years in those first fill sherry casks. So you're going to pick up a lot more of that color regardless.
Have you guys ever thought about doing a cask strength 18?
Not that I know of. Again, kind of the 18 was one of the stalwarts always. And so kind of fitting into most of our whiskeys are outside of those two cask strength items are typically proofed down to 46. So I don't see that changing. Maybe who knows what's going to happen. It's a pretty innovative distillery as far as, again, being younger, doing more experimentation allows us to have a little bit more leeway on things. So maybe in the future, but no plans for it now.
Yeah, this is delicious. The comments are all great. But since you're taking feedback from consumers, I think David will agree with me when I say, as just a general market trend, can we agree with all brands to just create a new SKU when they create a new label for this? Like, if you're coming out with a new 18, just put a different UPC on the back. That's it. No
So
more confusion.
Agreed.
I hear you there. I know it can be confusing as consumers, but the hoops you have to jump through when you're setting up a new SKU, and also from this is the sales guy in me speaking to data, but you want, again, things to typically scan together so you can capture that data as a whole. If you change your UPC, number one, if you have any placements at any chain liquor stores or a control state or anything like that, it takes an extra number of months just to get that item set up. It's a lot more man hours go behind it. So if you keep the UPC the same, the transition is just really smooth from a data and also just setup perspective. That's why you typically see a lot of people keep the same UPC. It's such a headache to change it with your actual current customers that you typically see it stay the same.
No, and I appreciate that. I'm sorry, Vadim, but I appreciate that because I think I just saw somebody comment about that if they had to do it. Jason said that if you had to change a SKU in Michigan, it would probably take a year to be able to do it. So I understand the simplicity of keeping the SKU, there. One of our unnamed people, I think it's more two dots and a smiley face and a circle, has said that they call to confirm that they have the bottle in their cart or that they purchased, and before they go, they actually call and confirm. So it's an added step. So when you do change, I guess for everybody that's here, if you're looking at if a brand is doing new bottling and new different things, you got to call and make sure that it's there and that they have it. It's an added step.
If there's ever a question, I call when I'm ordering and I call before I pick it up. And that's an open mouth.
Oh, I thought that was like a piglet's nose.
I want to know where the dark chocolate is, Vadim. That's all I want to know.
I'm not saying I ate it all, but give me a second.
I thought you were going to include that with all the little tasting bags.
There's tasting bags? Hold on, the
I
night
see
is long. It's coming.
Kate got the
Ziplocs.
chocolate out. Good for you.
No, the
You have to
worst
pay
is
the
that
toll.
all the chocolate pairings.
Lisa, you have to pay the toll. He has the charges is tariff.
That's right. It's only fair. But yeah, it's all the brands are gonna want to do chocolate pairings. Dead in like I guarantee it's gonna be August when I'm like the moment I touch it, it's just melted in my hand.
Hey Hunter, how familiar are you with IBs from Arran?
Sorry?
How familiar are you with IBs from Arran?
I'm not familiar.
Okay, because I see a Malt Man 18-year-old Isle of Arran for sale near me. But I don't know if there's not another distillery on Arran, right?
No, not not legally at least.
All right. I think if they got something bottled and for sale in the States, it's probably a legal distillery. But
Malt Man is making it in his garage. Be careful what you buy.
Well, sorry, I bring that up actually. Like, there's a huge history on the Isle of Arran of illicit distilling. Back about 150 years ago, there's I want to say about 100 illicit distilleries operating just to pretty much avoid taxes and things. It's a close enough trip to the mainland that people were just pretty much doing it on Arran and like shipping it in a boat just right across to Glasgow and selling as whatever. So sorry I didn't give you the history at that point, but that was more me making a bad joke about our own history. So
I don't think it's that one, but yeah, I think it's probably your distillery, but it's a port finished 18-year-old.
Port finish 18-year-old. That's probably a single cask item. We do a port finish every year.
It's like bottled 2015, distilled 96.
All 2015 distilled 90. That's probably a single cask.
Yeah.
So.
All right. That might
How much is it?
Unless is it part of the Smuggler series?
No, it says the Malt Man is the name of the
It's an independent bottle, so it is a single cask, Hunter.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
But it might be worth picking up for $100.
Oh, $100. That's a steal. Get it, especially if it's cast strength.
Yep. Yep. Not too far away.
Where are you
One
located?
thing we
might pick one up too.
What's
one
that?
thing we'll have. Oh, sorry.
Can you share the link in the chat after you get yours?
Where are you at, David?
I'm in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would have to get it and ship it to you. They don't ship.
is it from Specs?
Actually, Twin Liquors.
Okay, fair enough. We historically have done a lot of business with Specs.
Yep.
So if you're looking for some special things, a lot of times Specs is the place to get it.
Yeah, it looks like Specs only has your. So I've got the Macri Moore, like 2 different versions of the Macri Moore.
One's the cast strength, and right?
What's that?
One's probably the cast strength.
Yeah. Correct. And the Bothy and the says 10-year-old, which I'm guessing they're probably the old 10-year-old because they got a lot of them left.
Yeah, they. I mean, they typically Specs picks up a container a year of our product. So they might still be sitting on some stuff.
Yeah, we've got a very. You got to be in certain places for Scotch to sell. I mean, I just picked up a couple bottles yesterday that were 5-6 years old, just been sitting on the shelf collecting dust. So, okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, whoever said buttery on the 21, that's spot on. It actually reminds me more of like almost a malolactic fermentation kind of butteriness.
That was me. It's like a savory, buttery, like a garlic. I don't know why. Maybe it's my nose, but it's like a garlic buttery pasta. It's weird.
What cask did you say the 21 is in? The 21 is not sherry casks, first fill.
Oh, the 21. That's the 21 I was saying. I'm already at the 21. I'm doing a Coleman, going ahead of the game.
I just poured myself.
We're there.
Yeah, give us a second before we start drinking the 21, because I know you guys will finish it and not give me a chance to take a photo. Let's do a photo. Let's raise a glass with the last expression of the night. Say cheers to Hunter. Hunter, thank you so much for helping organize this. This has been fantastic and looking forward to round 3. But
Lean in, guys, lean in.
cheers. Smile at your camera.
Alec, lean in.
Jason, waiting for you. Getting the whole group in. All right, go. Everyone smile. Got it. And then there's 2 pages worth of people, so I'm gonna have to do a second one. Give me one.
Page 2.
Hunter, did you say how much the 21 was?
About 250.
Okay, thank you.
So
One
thing
second.
to call out to.
Hold on, people. We're gonna get page 2. Hold on.
I want to make sure I get everyone.
Yeah, no problem.
Hunter, you're on page 2 too, so smile. There we go. Everyone say cheers. Cheers. Raise a glass. Got it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Hunter. Sorry.
Oh no, just someone brought up a port cask, and one thing we're also known for is our kind of wine cask finishes, which for the new pack aren't yet in the U.S. I think you guys maybe had Sauternes and Amarone maybe last time. Is that right? Sound right?
Yeah.
The port cask, I don't know if we had that as well, but those are the 3 expressions we have every year that are very limited, but we do always. That's kind of one of our things we're known for too is those wine casks. So we get about 106 packs of each every year. So not a lot of that either, but those are really lovely expressions as well. Whether you're you're more dried fruit kind of person, or you like a little you got a sweet tooth.
You didn't even finish your cereal.
Yeah, guys, finish your cereal.
Always, especially
Sorry,
if you
I got 2 boys I'm watching, and
all
you're
good.
eating a popsicle on cereal now.
Oh, someone asked a fun question about Robert Burns. So Robert Burns, we actually do make consistently. We make both a blend and a single malt. The blend you'll only find at Specs ever, and that's the one item we actually don't make on island. The single malt is made at the Arran distillery, and we typically program that towards January 25th, which is Robert Burns Day.
Hunter, I have a question for you. Is Arran still making the Arran Gold We had that there, and can we get that anywhere, please?
So it's funny you ask. I've had that question a couple times. The Arran Gold is not brought to the U.S. at all, so you can only really get it on island and in Scotland. For those of you who don't know, that is our cream liqueur that we make. But no, we do not import it, unfortunately. I hate to disappoint. I'm sorry.
No, I'm very happy with the 21. This thing is really great to drink.
So I'm trying to just look through my notes here and see if I can find the differences between this and what the new pack will come when it comes to Q4, which maybe we can do something around too. But let me just see if I can get some answers for you guys on that.
Take your time.
Just asked about the Arran Gold. I put a link in the chat.
Thank you, David. Really appreciate that.
There you go. And you can get that stateside?
Says international delivery, including USA.
There you go. Boom. Getting it done. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
This 21 is quite the treat.
What'd you say? The 21 what?
It's quite a treat.
Amazing. Yeah. Like a meal.
I even pick up some ginger,
everything.
especially on the palate more so. I get a lot more that still that same kind of chocolate on the nose.
One of the things I'm noticing is that of the 6 expressions that we're going through, it is a really big variety. I mean, we're not talking about any peat or any thing that is going to take us way off track, but with the different sort of proofs and different finishes or the way that it's done, this has been a really great journey.
I'm glad to hear that. Again, I think Arran is full of nuance when it comes to Scotch too, and I always really appreciate. Again, we have a great variety of different offerings, and to each their own. I'm curious to see how this survey actually turns out too.
Well, pretty soon, Vanim's going to ask you a question.
Did we get what the cask makeup is for the 21 yet? No.
Oh.
We're willfully and
before we vote
your language, your question.
Before we vote, because I'd be surprised if the 18 and the 21 are the same makeup, considering the colors.
No, there's on this 21. There's definitely some bourbon cask on there for sure. I don't know the exact percentage, but it's again, I believe. And the thing I was checking on was when we get to the next iteration. It looks like so there's a little bit of bourbon cask on the old one, the one we're having right now. The next one is first fill and second fill sherry hogsheads.
So this is the old 21.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the new 21 won't be out till the end of the year.
Right. Exactly.
Another excuse for another tasting.
If you all insist.
We need one.
Chocolate.
Exactly.
Yes.
I knew that was I knew that was coming up at some point. Got to bring the chocolate. That's again. I already said we got to improve on these every time. So the chocolate, I guess, is the next iteration.
And with Arran Gold now, right? So now we already know 2 things in the lineup. There you go.
There you go. I actually don't think well, I guess now 700 milliliters are legal in the U.S. So it may be in the future.
Yeah.
Hunter, we don't mind if there's, Scottish, any sort of ethnic sort of performers or, somebody that could do song or dance. Chocolate is one thing. Hey, let's just kind of go, whatever is next.
Well, again, someone brought up Robert Burns Day, which is, again, we are licensed from the Robert Burns Society to produce that whiskey. If you guys don't know who Robert Burns is, he's a famous poet from Scotland, and he's really he's kind of synonymous with Irish or Scottish independence. So he was a great poet. I think he died around 32 or something like that. But you'll recognize some of his phrases and poems if you were to read them. But
So you're going to be reciting poetry for us? I would be into that.
if I get enough chocolate, it might happen.
So Hunter, what you're saying is we got to do our next tasting on Robert Burns Day, and you're gonna send some haggis to everyone.
That's the typical meal. So I guess it's got corned beef and or not corned beef, but haggis for sure. So that and a bagpiper.
For me.
So
And a
Robbie
bagpiper.
Burns,
All right.
he's one of his famous poems, and he's famous for a lot of poems, but one of them's The Cutting of the Haggis. And I don't have it memorized, so I can't recite it. But every year on his birthday, just Google it. You'll find out lots of Robbie Burns nights all over LA and all over the country, all over the world. And there'll be the cutting of the haggis, the reading of his poetry, and, drinking scotch. So.
Exactly. And
Right.
we always, again, in, non-COVID years, we always have a pretty big bash. Somewhere in the States around Robert Burns Day.
This year for Robbie Burns Day, I did a Robbie Burns night, and we did poetry reading and the whole bit. And I did it with a whiskey society, and they sent out your Robbie Burns whiskey.
Excuse me. Awesome. Where did we know each other then?
Yes.
Oh shit. I know where I stand now.
Finally, you understand.
I just didn't think you were gonna put up with the poetry, because the poetry is actually some people find it very challenging. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Lisa, why don't you read your Robert Burns poem that won? Elisa is being too modest at one of our Robert Burns dinners years ago.
Had one.
Whoa, there's something behind that. Dive in.
She won the bad poetry contest.
Do it.
I did win a whole bottle for my poem, but then they banned the words of frisky from the poem the next year. I said something in there about the whiskey was frisky. I'd have to look in my notes.
January 25th is Bobby Burns Day.
Damn you, Brian.
Go get it. Come on, let's go.
Hunter, so we tried everything from a $50 bottle to a $250 bottle tonight. And what do you think was the favorite of everyone?
Just because I'm prone to bias, sherry cask.
Wow. Impressive.
There you go. Wow, that's like far and away.
It should be.
I mean, it's kind of spread out all over the place, but yeah, I mean, definitely sherry cask is the leader and the winner. But lovely to see that, you don't just make one and done, one great expression. Everything got a little bit of love. I personally think the 10-year is your golden goose. I love the 10-year every time. For me,
I agree. For the price too, it's incredibly approachable, incredibly delicious, incredibly nuanced, I think. So
yeah, and I'm gonna seek out another bottle of the old 10-year to do a side by side with the new 10-year. I think I know where I can find one, but at that price point, it's funny. I remember when I first discovered you guys, I was at a liquor store and I bought a 10-year-old single malt for $50-ish, right? Which is it's not bad. But when you're looking at other brands of 12-year-old for 30, you're like, whoa, why am I paying so much? But then you try it and then you understand that it's, at the time I was a newbie. I was like, I didn't know the difference in a 40 and a 43 and a 46. It's just, I didn't even look at that on a bottle. And this was one of those stepping stones where it really opened my eyes that, okay, for me, 46 is the sweet spot for where I like my scotch. So this is fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone asked a question about the master distiller. Our master blender is James McTaggart, who's again been there for about 10 years, and he's kind of the guy. I don't know exactly if he's still around. Again, a lot has happened during COVID, but I believe don't believe he's master distiller.
Pretty sure that guy owes me money.
Hunter, I went back to the 18, and yeah, now it's better.
Again, apologies for the again coming off the cast strength.
No, you don't. No more apologies. It was just I had to. You were right. Let it sit. Come back to it. So it's good.
And again, an 18-year-old whiskey definitely needs also a little bit of time to breathe too. So just give it some room to find its legs, I guess.
Yeah,
but glad to hear that.
It didn't need any breathing.
It was I really do appreciate
beautiful.
Yeah, I went back to the first two expressions and then tried the 18. And then you can really kind of appreciate all the subtle complexities that it has. And right now that 18 is lingering on my tongue. And it's just spectacular. It's really great.
Honestly, even that quarter, even the quarter.
There's some really lovely oils. Sorry, what was that, Vadim?
I was saying even the quarter cask was good for what it is. For an entry level, it's really great. I'm so glad you guys got rid of the La Franza, the 40%er.
Yeah, I think the barrel reserve is far superior. Agreed. So glad to hear that.
I want to say that the whole lineup just carries on your tongue. Like if I just had a bottle of one, you could just sip it and just sit there for a little bit. It just
maybe for too long and maybe at least my case.
Yeah, but it's always it's present.
Yeah, and I was again alluding to this, like I think the oils on it are really just beautiful. Again, it really has a full mouthfeel across the board, and just really has a lot of different layers to it. So. Jane, I'm glad to hear you're reappreciating the barrel reserve too. So I'm glad to hear that. That's another one that again we're happy to have part of the portfolio.
I think there's not a bad one in the mix.
Agreed. There's not a bad one.
I've always been impressed with their whiskeys through and through. I think this lineup we have now too is just really spectacular. It's really cool to be like a part of like the whole rebrand and the whole new core lineup is, again, David, you alluded to it being pretty diverse. And I think that holds true. And they're stylistically, it's married, but they all have their own unique kind of attributes to themselves. So.
Well, that's what I really appreciate about a brand that can have so many sort of, nuanced differences. And when you can bring something to a virtual tasting where it's going to hit a bunch of different sort of palettes and things that people are going to like and enjoy and want to buy. I know for me, I was just like, okay, where can I buy the quarter cask, and where can I do this? Where can I get this sherry? So just, Hunter, just let us know, because the one thing that we are known for is spending a little bit of money on things that we like. So if we know where to get it, how to get it, there might be, 15, 20, 30, 50 bottles sold. So, you never know what's going to happen.
And we always appreciate that as well. So
it's not like we've ever sold online places out like during the tasting before it ends. Like,
Don, you're right. But the thing is, I'm just telling Hunter, it's like, if you just give us the the 411 on this, we'll be able to support your efforts and add to our collections. Like I need to add to my collection. No.
I just
got
permission.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I do always appreciate that. Again, unfortunately, we're just trying to get enough inventory here to be able to satiate the palates. But no, I know you guys are always good for it, and I do always appreciate it. Which actually, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. I don't know if anyone's with me before, but that 17-year-old Irishman is en route to Southern California. So, Vadim, I'll give you a heads up when that's landing at Mission. But we got enough for you all. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So you know what? I mean, this has been fantastic. I don't want to drag it out for any longer than necessary. So on that note, I want to give you an opportunity to enjoy the rest of your evening. Happy Friday, everyone. This has been absolutely fantastic. And if you're willing to come back for a round 3, we're more than happy to have you. Right? Any nays on that?
We got enough expressions.
Fantastic. Awesome. So thank you so much.
We'll
Hunter.
save some of the new wine casts for you, and we'll get it done.
Fantastic.
Hey,
And
barrel
we're looking
pick
forward to
is
seeing you
very
soon
for us,
again.
Dean.
And the club pick for the third
Third
person.
time.
Yeah,
Barrel,
Hunter,
barrel pick the sherry.
Cherry barrel club pick.
I guess you and I need to talk about doing a barrel pick for us, Hunter.
Wait, I don't
We can
think
make it
I don't think
happen.
We've done a
I'm
Scotch
serious.
barrel
We
pick.
can
I
make
think
it
we
happen.
should.
Okay, now let's talk.
Yeah, it won't be till probably December or January by the time it gets here. But yeah, we can make that happen.
Hunter, we're fine with that. That doesn't matter.
That's
Cool.
even better. We have a few things coming now, so if it's a little delayed, that we'll be ready for it then. I know with Scotch, you got to be at least 6 months to a year out for sure. So let's talk. I think Arran, and can I get a show of hands? Arran pick for the group. How many people are interested? I think that's essentially unanimous. Yeah, I mean, this is one brand that I'm happy to support, and I think they make really great juice. Like I said, not a bad one in the bunch, and the price is right. Yeah, let's talk. Let's make this happen. I think this is gonna be really great.
It'd
No,
be
we
great.
can definitely make that happen, and really appreciate the time, everybody. It's great to be here again and spend some time with you and chat through another great whiskey. So
Thank you, Hunter. Great job. Really appreciate it.
thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Hunter. See you soon. We'll see you
See you
soon. Cheers.
Okay,